Is the European pipeline to Champagne about to add another? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another episode of Locked On Illini. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Find me on your favorite social medias. This weekend was fun. I got to interact with a lot of you who were sending me DMs and just in a very happy state of mind. And, I deal with you guys when we're down and we're not exactly feeling at our best, but it's extra special when we're all collectively in a good mood. So again, find me, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, whatever it is, send me a message, say hello as I continue to try to build this community. Oh, and by the way, make sure you join the Discord where we're talking Illini sports each and every day. Today, I wanted to kind of change topics slightly, but not so much slightly. There's a lot of momentum, positive momentum, when it comes to Illinois basketball right now. And let me just say, it's not just for what we see on the court. Illinois now, obviously, 2 straight Big Ten conference wins by over 20 points over Iowa, and then also at Michigan over the weekend. And things seem to be turning around, but I wanted to talk about a player who's not on this Illinois team, but who might be on next year's basketball team. And that gentleman is Dame Sarr, an Italian basketball player. He's rated number 1 out there in Italy, a former teammate of Kasper. And this is kind of, maybe actually I'll get to that in a second. Dame is 6'6", about 200 pounds. And he could very well be the next European star that plays for the Illini. Now, Illinois, obviously, we've had a pretty good track record when it comes to recruiting and scouting internationally. Arguably, the 2 of the better players on this Illinois team, Kasper, Tomislav Ivicic, are from Europe. Will Riley, technically, is also Canadian. So if we want to add Will into the international pool that's playing in Champaign right now, Dame Sarr, is a player that could very well fit in and come in and be the next generation of the Will Riley of the Kasper. He's not really Kasperis in the playmaking sense. I think if we wanted to do a more direct replacement, Dame would be more of a replacement for Will. And, Will has brought a lot to the table, especially recently. By the way, stay tuned for the second segment where I'm going to be talking about Will Riley after rewatching that Michigan basketball game. But Dame is the type of kid who his jump shot looks a little weird to me. Okay, I've just spent about maybe half hour, 45 minutes watching some of his YouTube clips. And when he shoots the three-pointer, it doesn't exactly look natural. But I've actually said kind of the same thing about Will Riley. Mainly with Will, it's because he's a little skinny, that sometimes he looks like a little kid playing with a ball one size too big. And so the form looks a little awkward to me. So I'm not putting too much weight into this. Again, there's a lot of people out there who are saying Sarr is a future star. One of my favorite go-to people on Twitter, who I've referenced multiple times on this very show, Arman Jovic at PDT Scouting, on February 28th, talked about how Sarr is the top prospect from the Italian class. He calls Sarr extremely young, and being able to play at the youth events, he's extremely, it's never easy, and that's how Sarr has actually become a star. He's definitely among the top European players going to college next season. Now, where is he going to college next season? There's essentially, from the beginning, it's been 3 candidates. It's been Illinois, it's been Arizona, and it's been Creighton. And when I checked in on this about 2 months ago, that's what I heard. The consensus was all 3. My one contact in Champaign basically said that Illinois was going all in for him. They really like Sarr. And I checked in on, it wasn't me, it was, I believe, Ryan Ferran, who is a pretty big Illinois personality on all the social medias, talked about how He's hearing that Dame might be closer than ever to making a commitment, and that commitment would be to Illinois. Now, I wish I had something more to report on my end. I did reach out to my contact, and all he gave me was 2 thumbs up. And I have to respect that. And, I know you watch the show on occasion. I got to respect whatever information that's given to me. And so 2 thumbs up, does that mean things are consistent? The Illinois is still going after it, or something is imminent? I don't know. But I think Dame is the type of high-end talent, potential star talent that next year's basketball team kind of needs. Look, guys, despite what you guys say, what I say in some of these post games, Kasper Shakishonis is about to earn top 10 NBA money next year. Will Riley, in my opinion, should be earning top 15 money in next year's NBA draft. Those 2 guys, no matter what we think, are not coming back to Champaign. In the modern, with the modern world of the NIL, when you're talking about these NBA draft picks being guaranteed 3-4-year contracts, and again, in the NBA, they're all guaranteed. Illinois is not going to be able to come up with a lump sum of money to equal something of that. Even the highest paying schools in the country aren't going to be able to go dollar for dollar with a simple NBA contract. So get that thought out the window. But I talked about how high of a ceiling I have for next year's basketball team. Especially if we can get guys like Tomislav back, if we can get a guy like Kylan back, maybe Trey White back, Morez Johnson, of course. While those guys are very good and talented players, what they do is they raise the foundation of your basketball team. They raise the floor of your basketball team. But ultimately, to succeed in NCAA tournaments, to make a Sweet 16 run, an Elite 8 run, a Final 4 run, you need the stars. And that's why I haven't given up on this year's team, because we have what I think is 2 stars. And I'll get to that later. We have Kasper Shakishonis, and I think we have another kid who's blossoming into a star, which I'm going to be talking about in the next segment. Next year's team, I don't know who that is. And I think it's one of those where we're kind of trusting Brad Underwood to go out and find him. Now, I have faith he's going to find him because of what he's pulled off essentially the last few years. And I'm not talking about the transfer portal. I'm talking about simply recruiting. Kasper Shakishonis, Tomislav Ivisic. Those are 2 guys that he went out and sought out in Europe. He scouted. Nobody, I will say 95% of the casual basketball fan, of which I would say I'm slightly higher than that, but I guess that's proving my point. I never heard of Kasper Shakishonis until Illinois had seemingly lost the recruitment for Dame, the kid who eventually went to BYU. And it looks like that Illinois was going to pivot towards this kid named Kasperis. And then, a little insider's note, Igor all of a sudden became open again to Illinois. But at that point, Illinois had watched enough of Kasperis' tape that they weren't interested. They watched enough of Kasperis' tape. They were all in on Kasperis, and that's the guy that they had targeted to be their main player on this year's basketball team. And, especially after striking out on guys like AJ Storr and David Jones last year, remember that name? For Illinois to have ultimately settled on what I think is the best player of the group, and that includes Igor. Igor is going to be a fantastic NBA player, but I think at the college basketball level, Kasperis has outproduced him. And so for reasons like that, I do trust Brad. And let's be honest, I've talked about it on the show before. My everydayers know I love to give credit to Brad and Jeff and Orlando for being so aggressive when it comes to recruiting the European front. As I mentioned earlier, Dame Sarr is a former teammate of Kasper Shakishonis. And that's why I think Illinois absolutely has a leg up on this recruitment. It's very simple. Dame and the coaches and Kasperis, they all communicate with each other. And if Kasperis is being taught correctly here, if he's being treated respectfully here, we know Kasperis is going to finish on an all Big Ten team. And again, for us, it looks like he's going to be a top 10 NBA draft pick. That's all any European kid wants. It's not about blue blood names when you're playing in Europe. In Europe, you probably couldn't point to Kentucky on a map. Well, let's be honest. there's probably a good proportion of American students who couldn't put Kentucky on a map, but that's a different conversation entirely. Illinois is building relationships out in Europe before the rest of the country has. That's one of the pivots Brad has made over the past couple of years, and I think it's been a fantastic one, and then one that's been treating Illinois extremely well. And let's hope sooner rather than later we can get a kid like Sarr into Champaign, and maybe next year's team can really raise the ceiling of what this team may or may not be able to do. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with the complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5, that's SH5, for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. And welcome back to Locked On Illini. Make sure if you haven't already, you've hit that like button and you've hit that subscribe button. And if you're not subscribed, why not? Already in less than a year, Locked On Illini is the second biggest YouTube channel based on Illinois sports out there. And of course, on the audio side, I'm forever going to be grateful for you guys with the growth. Again, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, whatever you guys listen to. If you're a podcast audio listener, make sure you find Locked On Illini and you hit that subscribe button there as well, so we can continue to have this show be shown in the faces of other Illini fans. In this segment, I kind of wanted to give some credit to a guy who I feel like I'm over the top when it comes to giving some credit to, and that's Will Riley. Will is a kid who I talked about a couple months ago, and my everydayers in here will confirm for me that even though his scoring hadn't really returned to the expectations that we wanted to, and his shots weren't falling, I started hinting towards my second watches, right? And so some of you guys know that basically I watch the game live and I do the post-game press conference or the post-game session that we all have together. And then the very next morning, I rewatch the game. And then I just try to jot down a couple notes about some certain guys or certain plays that may have stuck out to me that I didn't get a chance to see live just because I was in the moment. And I did mention Will Riley on Sunday's post-game show. In my opinion, the game turned the way it did because of Will's play. And just to get back to my original point, Will was a kid who, to me, was starting to figure it out right around the turn of the year. To me, it seemed like even though his shots weren't falling, the game was starting to slow down for him. And even though the shots weren't falling, that was the one aspect of his game I was not worried about. And it was the one facet of the game that if you watch Will Riley high school tape, you know he's one of the best pure scorers in the entire country. And I'm just talking about in this planet in general. Once he gains 15, 20 pounds, I think he's going to be an ideal player for even the modern day NBA. So, I saw the turnaround happening, but the shots weren't yet falling. But as of late, they kind of have been. I'm going to read off his points totals since January 3rd. So January 3rd, 16, 24, 18, 27, 10, 13, 11, 7, 15, and 13. So obviously on the offensive end, at least when it comes to scoring buckets, it's starting to slow down for him as well. And the key thing is, in the beginning of the season, if the threes weren't falling, nothing was falling. And, sometimes I don't blame him. That's kind of a trick that all young kids kind of fall into sometimes. Your 3-point shots more often than not are going to be more open than putting your head down and attacking the rim. And so when you have confidence in yourself, when you feel good about your 3-point shot, when you see it go in all the time in practice, you're a little bit more inclined and a little trigger happy to take those 3-point shots. But as of late, I mean, right now in the last 3 games, Will Riley is 1 for 12 from 3-point land. But you know what? I would argue over his last at least 2 games, he was kind of non-existent against Duke. But let's be honest, I've erased that game from my memory at this point. Will's been one of our best players. He's been, in my opinion, a better player than Kasparas Shakishonis. I talked about it in the postgame against Michigan. The game Kylan Boswell had was amazing. The way Trey White, 19 and 11, the game that he had was absolutely key for that victory over Michigan. But Illinois was only up by 1 point at halftime. And there was a lot of venting I was doing on mainly the social medias, but also the Locked On Illini Discord, link in the description if you're not in already, about how I don't think that you're going to win a game against a good Big Ten team if Trey White or Kylan Boswell are your best players. And I mean zero disrespect to those 2 players. Kylan had arguably his best game as an Illini, and I feel like at times, at least as of late, I should be Trey White's agent, the way I've hyped him up and, been very vocal about my disagreements with Brad on Trey White's game. And I think he should be playing, he should always have been playing 25 minutes a game for this basketball team. But I said that, hey, if Kasparas doesn't really show up in the second half, Illinois is going to be in trouble. And I mean, Kasparas ended up with a very respectable stat line. I think it was like 17, 6, and 4. But to me, they were very much empty calories. He got a lot of his 3-point baskets, his free throws, when the game at that point was already in double digits and the game was somewhat in hand. But a guy who did contribute to a lot of what I wanted Kasparas to do was Will Riley. He just has the length and playmaking abilities that not a lot of other college basketball teams can really play against. And Will, more credit to him. Again, he no longer relies on the 3-point shot. Again, 0 for 4 against Michigan. But what does he do? He puts his head down and he attacks the rim. And I talk about this all the time. I don't know how many players get a less favorable whistles than Will. I don't know if it's because he is so skinny and scrawny that the referees don't give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to, getting contact, but there's certainly contact almost every single time he attacks the rim. But he's not getting the foul calls. Sometimes it goes in, sometimes it doesn't, but he keeps doing it. And, it's that aggressiveness that I think kind of led to the charge that Illinois made in that second half, where Illinois scored 62 points in the second half against Michigan. And it's not even just Will Riley's scoring or his aggressive nature. The scouting report on Will was he wasn't much of a passer and he wasn't much of a defensive player. But in that second half against Michigan, he made right play after right play after right play. And that's included if he's attacking the basket, but he sees the defense collapsing on him. Will, right now at this stage of the season, has matured enough to make the right pass out to the kid who might be open for a wide open 3. Now, whether that's a good shot based on this Illinois season, who knows? But it certainly was on Sunday against Michigan, where Illinois shot 37% from 3-point land. And I guess I keep saying this almost, but I really feel like this up and down season that Illinois in general has been having, we might be on the trajectory back up because we know Kasparas is a star. The ceiling of whether he's a superstar, maybe that's debatable. But Will Riley, I think right now is kind of becoming a star in his own right. He's a guy who I really think, whether it's going to be the Big Ten tournament or the big NCAA tournament, I think the world is going to kind of learn about Will Riley in a game that he's going to have 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. And he's going to be the MVP. And that's going to be the game that's going to kickstart the Will Riley to the NBA, if not, a lottery pick discussions, because he deserves to be. And I know that's going to upset some Illinois fans, but again, I said this in the first segment. There's no amount of money that Illinois is going to be able to offer a kid who is going to be a top 20 pick in the NBA draft. The NBA contracts are guaranteed. They're multi-millions. Illinois is not going to be able to come up with a lump sum that's going to equal in 1 year what this guy would be guaranteed to make in multiple seasons at the NBA level. But for me, with the modern day of college basketball, that doesn't worry me anymore, right? Like, if we can develop Will Riley into a star where he's able to shine when the spotlight is on him and be noticed by all the nation in a big stage, you know what that does? That makes the next guy, that makes the Dame Sarr, the Costanza, like the other guys who we are recruiting to replace the Kasper Shonases, to replace the Will Rileys, confident to know that if they decide to come to Champaign, that we can do for them what we've already done for Will and what we've already done for Kasperis. So I know I feel like I do a video on Will Riley once or twice a month. And so I was hesitant on whether I wanted to do another one. But again, after watching the viewing of this Michigan game one more time, I gave a lot of love, and all of it deserved, to Colin Boswell, to Ben Hummerkaus, to Trey White after the game on Michigan. And I did mention Will Riley a couple of times, but I really think that we all need to be paying attention to just how much he's been elevating his game seemingly every week since the end of 2024. And he's honestly one of the big reasons that I'm unwavered in my confidence on what this team can do in March. This sounds silly, and hand up, I'm acknowledging this sounds silly, but I still think Illinois, more than any other team in the Big Ten Conference, has the highest ceiling and really the only real potential to make a run at the national championship. There's maybe a couple teams that might have a chance at a Final Four, but I think now in modern day basketball, you need NBA players to win the big title. Okay, and when it comes to the Big Ten Conference, there's a lot of teams with really good, freshmen or really good basketball veteran teams, but there's just not a lot of teams that have two players that could be potential lottery picks. And in fact, Illinois and Rutgers is the other one, but Rutgers obviously doesn't have the supporting cast that Will Riley and Kasperis Shonas have here at Illinois, and they don't have Mr. March himself, Brad Underwood, who I think I saw a stat is something like the third or fourth winningest coach in all of college basketball in the month of March in the last 5 or 6 years. So, hopefully Will can continue on this trajectory. And if he does, I'm telling you guys, if the supporting cast continues to play the way they've been playing and we can get good Kasperis again, this team can not only make it to the Sweet 16, which is my only expectation this year. But can you imagine, after the roller coaster season that we've had this year, if this team, led by an emerging Will Riley, can make another Elite Eight run, or possibly even Final Four if the matchups are right and the shots drop? It's a fun time to be an Illini fan. And that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for tuning in today and every day. Again, I sincerely appreciate the community we've built here. I think we're at almost 2,300 subs. That's going to be my goal here on YouTube by the end of the week. So if you can help in any sort of way, again, I checked on Sunday night, 58% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed. And quite honestly, I don't blame you, because you may not realize it. The way these algorithms work, they're going to show you my video on your feed regardless of whether you're subscribed or not, because they know you still watch. But if you do hit the like button, if you do hit the subscribe button, what it's going to do is it's also going to show Locked On Illini to other Illini fans who may not have been introduced to this show yet. Again, we got a big week of content for you guys right here on Locked On Illini. Remember, I haven't taken a single day off this year. It's going to be March 4th when you watch this show, and you've had a piece of content every single day, including on the weekends, of Locked On Illini, and I'm going to continue to do so until, quite honestly, I get burned out. But it's easy for me to do so because of the constant support that you guys show this channel. Again, this show started in Memorial Day 2024, And already we're the second biggest channel in all of YouTube when it comes to covering Illini sports. And we're growing each and every day on the audio side. Thanks to all of you. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.